Dusk slid across the savannah like a velvet curtain when Ranger Noah Hart heard the soft thud on his porch. He froze in the doorway of his weathered cedar cabin at Ember Post. Out past the short grass and the scattered acacias, a tawny shape was coming straight at him. No stalking, no threat display. A lioness, and clamped in her jaws, a limp cub. Every protocol Noah had ever learned told him to step back, shut the door, radio for help. Instead, he stood and watched as the lioness slowed, stopped at the top step, and lowered the cub onto the splintered wood as carefully as if it were made of glass. The little body twitched. One shoulder was slick with blood. The lioness raised her head and met Noah's eyes. No snarl, no warning, just a raw, pleading focus that felt like a hand on his chest. The moment snapped something in him, fear maybe, or the line he thought could never be crossed. He eased forward, palms open, heartbeat thudding in his ears. She tensed, muscles bunching, then held. Noah knelt. The cub's breaths sawed thin and shallow. A ragged tear ran across the shoulder, deep enough to glint with exposed tissue. "I've got you, little one," he whispered, voice low and steady for her as much as for the cub. He wrapped the tiny cat in his field jacket and stood. The lioness followed to the threshold and stopped again, head bowed over the step where her baby had lain, as if anchoring herself to the last safe spot. Inside, Noah's cabin turned into an improvised ER. He clipped a headlamp on, rinsed the wound until clean blood ran, and dabbed disinfectant with hands that had learned long ago to move gently and without panic. He placed a neat line of temporary stitches, injected a broad-spectrum antibiotic, and eased the cub beside a space heater to conserve body heat. He fashioned a sling to keep the injured shoulder quiet. Outside the screen door, the lioness became a statue, golden in the last light, unblinking, listening to every clink of metal and hiss of gauze. Noah laid one palm on the cub's chest and counted breaths. 30 seconds. A minute. 10. The air in the cabin felt thin, as though the whole night were holding itself back, waiting for permission to pass. If the cub could make it to sunrise, they'd have a shot. The hours stretched, stitched together by the tiny rhythm under his hand. Sometime near dawn, the breathing steadied. Not perfect, not safe, but steadier, like a boat finally finding the lull between waves. Noah exhaled for the first time in hours, an ache uncoiling from his neck and shoulders. Daylight spilled over the grasslands. Time for the hardest part. He patted a transport crate, slid the sleeping cub inside, and carried it to his open-back Jeep. The lioness rose at once, a low note rumbling through her ribs. Noah kept his gaze soft, his voice softer. "I'm taking your kid to help," he said, loading the crate. "I'll bring the little one back." He expected a charge, at least a slicing roar. Instead, she hesitated, then fell in behind the Jeep, shadowing him at a strict distance as he bumped along the two-track toward Kifaro Wildlife Clinic. It was the strangest convoy he'd ever led. Battered ranger's truck, a crate with a drowsy patient, and a mother who had decided to trust the very species she was built to fear. At the clinic, Dr. Maya Patel and her team took one look at the lioness parked near the entrance and another at the X-ray. The fracture was nasty, clean through the shoulder. Surgery wasn't optional. 2 tense hours later, the cub was patched with plates and pins, an IV line taped to a shaven leg, sleeping hard on warm blankets. Protocol said 24 hours minimum for observation. Protocol also said no large carnivores in the waiting room, which the Lioness treated with the kind of disdain a queen reserves for petty rules. She lingered outside, pacing a half-moon between the door and the shade of a fever tree. Then, at some invisible permission, disappeared back into the grass. Noah drove to the clinic at first light the next morning, collected a groggy, bandaged handful of stubborn life, and carried the crate back to Ember Post. He set it on the porch and opened the door. Wind combed the grass. The acacias drew black lines against the sky. No Lioness. It stunned him how much that absence hurt. He had half expected her to appear out of the mirage, ears pricked, eyes burning holes through him. Instead, there was only sunlight and the little cat blinking up at him like a kid waking from a long fever. Maybe, he thought, trust didn't always look like watching. Maybe sometimes it looked like letting go. Weeks melted into a new routine of rehab and release. The cub learned to put weight on the mended shoulder, then to stalk crickets in the tall grass, then to vanish and reappear with that loose-jointed, two-big-paws swagger that means a cat is going to be fine. The day it bounded away for good, Noah stood on the porch with his hands in his pockets and a smile he couldn't quite rein in. Life flowed back to its old channels. Patrols, paperwork, engine noise, the human busyness that looks small next to a horizon this big. One late afternoon, miles from anyone, the Jeep coughed, sputtered, and died. The dash went dark. The radio tried its best and failed. Noah popped the hood and stared at the tangled guts like they might answer for themselves. That's when he heard it, the high, broken cackle that sounds like laughter until you remember what's doing the laughing. Hyenas, more than a few, and closing. Noah slid back into the cab and shut the door as the first bodies ghosted from the grass. They circled, confident and coordinated, testing tires and doors with quick, efficient bites. The metal felt thin. The sky felt very, very large. He ran the math. No weapon he could fire from inside without escalating. No signal going out. No backup close. The hyenas tightened the ring. The sound that followed came like a bass note through the bones of the earth. A roar, deep, resonant, so close it rattled the steering column. The hyenas broke formation as if yanked on wires. Noah twisted in the seat. Out of a stand of acacias, two lions exploded into the open, one lean and hard-muscled, a lioness with a chip missing from her left ear, and beside her, a young male just beginning to wear his first mane like a borrowed crown. They hit the hyena line like a hurricane. Dust fountained, teeth flashed. The lioness moved with surgical economy, scattering stragglers and shouldering the boldest into retreat. The young male planted himself between Noah's door and the chaos, roaring so deep that you could feel the sound more than hear it. It was over quickly. The clan melted back into the tall grass. Angry, unhurt pride bruised more than flesh. The two lions didn't chase. They simply pivoted and settled, not 20 yards from the Jeep, facing the direction the hyenas had fled, as if they understood that sometimes the most protective thing you can do is just be seen. Noah knew that ear. He knew it from the night his headlamp caught it above a blood-slick shoulder. He knew, too, what that made the young male beside her. "You've got to be kidding me," he whispered, laughing once, a shocked, disbelieving sound that wasn't really laughter at all. "You're the kid." They stayed like that for 10 long minutes, Noah's hand shaking on the steering wheel, the lioness glancing back now and then, with a calm that said, "You're fine. We've got this." The young male held the line, chest heaving, tail twitching with bright, controlled fury. A second engine's growl crept up the trail at last. A rescue truck crested the low ridge, dust plume lit like smoke by the sinking sun. The two lions rose in the same breath, turned to Noah one last time, and in that sliver of shared silence closed a circle months in the making. Then they slipped away into the light, bodies dissolving into the grass the way only wild things can. Noah stepped out on legs that didn't feel like his. His colleagues piled out of the truck, peppering him with questions that felt too small for what had just happened. He pointed at the empty savanna and couldn't make the words come. Later, back at Ember Post, under a sky blown clean with stars, he found the words. They fit on a single page in his logbook. When we choose courage over caution and service over fear, the wild sometimes answers back. Not with thanks, with kinship. It didn't rewrite science. It didn't need to. It rewired something older. Call it loyalty, or memory, or a mother who once placed her entire world on a stranger's porch, and a son who came back to return the favor. And that was enough to change the way Noah would look at the grasslands for the rest of his life. Not as a border between species, but as common ground. Because in the end, the greatest rescues run both directions. And sometimes, the royal family of the plains shows up like neighbors when your engine quits and the shadows start to laugh.